Hey, how's it going everyone? Joey here with Simple DIYer. And in this video, we're going to do a full-on review of the Paulk hybrid workbench that I just got through building. We're going to talk about everything from the specs, the dimensions, the features in it, everything in between, what I like, don't like about it, and a few other things that I would change. And trust me, there's a few things that I would definitely change in this build. Now there's a lot to cover on this video, so I made myself a little cheat sheet here to help me go along the whole review here. So I hope you don't mind. All right, so let's just go on and jump right into it. Okay. Now the very first thing I want to talk about is why I called it the Paulk hybrid workbench. Okay, so as you can probably imagine on why, a lot of ideas and inspirations came from many woodworkers and makers out there, and from doing a lot of research, and I did a lot. And I put a lot of thought into building this particular bench here. I wanted this to be like an all-in-one type of thing. I wanted to serve pretty much every single purpose and all of my needs. I mean, it's not going to be 100%, but at least up in the 90s. I wanted this to be like the central location to where everything begins, where the middle parts and everything ends. And I actually learned how to use SketchUp from sketching up this particular bench, because I wanted to, there was a lot of things that I changed into it to really make it my own. Now, obviously the top part here is all Ron Paulk. I mean, everything from the dog holes, the T-tracks, the router lift, well, with the exception of the tail vise or the Moxon Vise, that's not his, but everything else is his. The paper roll holder here, that's Jay's Bates thing. I got that from him. He had Nick Ferry over at his house. They did some collaboration type thing, and they built one for his bench. So I went ahead and I love the idea, so I did one for mine. The bottom part, or actually the air compressor cabinet that's below this router lift, that's actually Drew Shorts from the Rockbench wood shop. He did a video on building his. He built like a whole cabinet for like his his table saw. Really beautiful. You got to see that if you haven't seen it yet. But he built an air compressor cabinet in there. I love that idea, so I made sure that I incorporated it into this table here. The box, actually the drawers on the bottom, that came from Mark Spagnola. I get screwed up on his last name. I'm sorry, Mark, if you're watching. I screwed up your last name, but from Mark from the Wood Whisperer. He had a whole video tutorial series on building a torsion box, and I absolutely love the bottom part and how he built the drawers and all that stuff, because he used pretty much every space available. A lot of people build these Paulk benches and they just build like a tray down there or whatever, right? And there's a lot of wasted space, and I really wanted to make sure that I use every bit of this section down at the bottom. So I got that idea from Mark. The Moxon Vise, that actually came from doing a lot of research on the Rubo benches. Oh, that's another one I get screwed up on. The Rubo benches, I want to build one. I'm actually going to build one. I'm just doing a lot of research, and that idea came from that. A lot of the benches, the Rubo benches I saw, had a tail vise or a Moxon vise of some sort. So I said, you know what, let me go ahead and try that out. And then the actual overall table also serves as an outfeed table for my table saw, and also an assembly table. So really this is like an all-in-one type of thing, and I've been using it for a while, and it's just been amazing for me. Very convenient, very useful, and I absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and get to the actual specs and sizes and dimensions. Alright, so let's get to the specs here. The overall dimensions of this table is 48 inches length, and with the jaws here it adds like another 2 1/4. So total lengthwise it's 50 inches and 1/4 or so. Okay, but the actual workspace is 48 inches. The total width is 32.5 inches wide. The actual top part, only the top part, is 8.5 inches wide. And I got that right from Ron Paulk, so I did not mess with the actual depth. I just thought it was a perfect depth, so I left it at that. I just adjusted everything else, and I'll get to it in a little bit. The bottom box, I'm just calling it a box, right? That is, let me see here, 42 inches in length and 30 inches wide and 24 inches high. And the reason why it's smaller on all areas is because I wanted a lip on all, you know, on the bottom of the actual box for, you know, for some other stuff that I did here, like the paper roll holder and over here and so forth. And then the bottom part, the casters, actually adds another 4 inches, so it's 28 inches total. But it's weird because the casters, I got those at Home Depot and they say 3 inches, right? But they're actually 4 inches in height, so I don't know what that's about there. But the total height from the very floor, including the casters, to the very top is 36.5 inches. That's pretty much it for the specs. As far as the specs goes, let's go to some of the features in this table. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the bottom cabinets, or like I like to call the big box here, right? The bottom box is essentially 2 cabinets, or 2 separate cabinets, separated right down the middle. It's 19.5 inches wide from here to here and from here to here. On this section, there's drawers. There's 10 total drawers on this cabinets. On this section, there's 6 drawers, 3 on this side and 3 on the back side. On this section, there's 4 drawers, 1 on this side, and then on the other side, on the back side, is the air compressor cabinet, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Now, the drawers here, I did 3 here and 3 on the back, exactly identical in dimension and width and everything. Now, the dimensions on these are 17 inches in length, 12.5 deep, and this bottom one is 7.5 inches in height, right? And then these other 2 are the same length and width, and then the height is 4 inches each. But like I said, there's 3 here and 3 in the back, and identical. In the center of it, I left a 2-inch gap, and I got that idea from Mark Spagnolo on that one video I mentioned earlier where he built a torsion box. And he mentioned in there that he left that gap in there purposely to add like piping or electrical work or whatever he wanted later. And since I wanted a power supply here on this box, I said, you know, that's a perfect idea. That's an excellent idea. So I went ahead and implemented it on this build. So right in the center of it, there's 2 inches gap specifically for that. And I'll talk more about that when we get to the power supply section. This section here was a bit tricky because I had the air compressor cabinet back there, and that took up a lot of real estate, which is why I did that first and then did the drawers. That took like 18 inches, I believe, 18.25, 18 and a half. So I had very minimal space here. So these drawers are the same length wise, the 17 inches in length. And deep or width is 8 3/4, almost 9 inches deep. And then the height is, this one is 6 inches, and then the others are 3 inches. All right, so I brought the camera in a little closer just so you can see what's going on in here. So this is the air compressor cabinet. These are the 3 drawers that I mentioned earlier. And then right here, I just put this little door here, and this is where the air compressor cabinet gets in. And it is just perfectly snug in there, just barely, by probably about 1/4 of an inch on all sides. And right down on that section, I don't know if you could see it, but I just drilled a little hole for the air compressor to come out, or the hose to come out, and then on the other end I attached the you know, all the hose and all that stuff. And this idea came directly from Drew Short, and I gotta thank him for that because that was just genius. And I definitely wanted to incorporate this on this build, so that's what I did. And that's pretty much it for this section here. This section up here is actually a dust tray for the router, which I guess I can go ahead and touch bases on that right now. Right there, let me just go ahead and separate this. All I have to do is take that out. And there's the dust tray right there. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see right there. Right, let me see if you can see, there's a few dust there. So I need to clean that out right there. So I'll just go ahead and put that up there. But if you saw the last video where I was building the drawer bottoms, right, and doing the grooves for the drawer bottoms, it was a complete mess. So I wanted to figure out a way to minimize that dust. So I came up with this idea to protect or keep the dust from falling here. So I came up with that little dust tray, right? And then for here, what I did was I used my vacuum for my dust right, and I just put it right in here. And then as I'm using a router, it helps minimize a lot of that dust, and it really helps a lot. All right, so the paper roll holder, there's really not much to it. It's a simple build. Before I get to that, this is the other side of the air compressor. I just drilled a hole there, as you can see, and it just, oh my God, it just works perfectly. And then I added these little eye hole screws to hang that in there, and I also did one here on the side. So if I'm working on that side, and the same thing on this side here. I added this here, and I just don't find myself using it, so I'll probably eliminate this here. But anyways, I absolutely love this here. But the paper roll holder, it's really easy. My son and I built this together. I absolutely enjoyed that moment with him. And it's just got that 3/4 inch, rod thing there, or dowel, or whatever you call it. And then these, I actually just use cutoffs. I actually got some right here. The actual cutoffs from these holes, I just use that. That's it. I just cut it to length so it could fit perfectly to here. I pretty much just laminated two pieces together, but one section I just drilled a hole and then cut the ends off, the slots for these dowels to go in. And then on the outside part, if you could see, I don't know if you could see that, I just put pocket holes, that's it, and then just pocket hole them right into there. And then this just goes real simple, right in there, nothing hard, it's stable, it's hard, and I could just go ahead and use it right over the top. Alright, so I want to talk about the router and the T-Track, but before I do, let's go ahead and talk about these little features here. I've got this magnet here that I added here. I bought like 4 or 5 of them from Harbor Freight. They had them for like $1.50. They had a sale going on, so I just said, well, let me go ahead and get them, see. I installed them inside for my wife for her knives. I installed some around here and one here. I'll be honest, I have yet to use this section here. I just thought it'd be nice to have it there. The power supply, I absolutely love this. This has been very, very handy, especially when plugging in like, my iPhone, especially my sanders or whatever. Very, very handy. Now, this section, the way it powers up is on the other end, right here. I just put the actual power supply right here. So I just go ahead and put my power cord connected here. That powers everything up here, right? So basically all I have to do is just, switch this on, plug whatever I want in, and then right here for the actual router, I just plug this right in here, and then switch it on to have it on, and then switch it off to have it off, to turn it off. And also for the what you call the air compressor, if I need it, I just go ahead and plug it in right there as well. And and I just power down right there. So that's been very, very convenient, and I actually love that. So let's go ahead and move on to the actual router. Now this feature I absolutely love. It's a Rockler router lift, and it's not screwed together or anything. It's just being held there by weight, and I riveted these areas, or whatever you call that groove. And I think I got pretty lucky on the first shot, because it fell in there really flush. So I think I got lucky with that part. Right here in the bottom drawer, I got everything I need handy. I've got all my bits, my router bits, all the essential tools, like these little wrenches to tighten and loosen that thing there. This little thing here, I don't know what it's called, to raise it and lower it and micro adjust it. So this little thing here has been really, really handy. And even before I was done with the entire thing, I already put it to use by using it for the drawer bottoms and the grooves and so forth. So this has been very, very handy to have. Now the actual T-Tracks here, I got that right from Ron Paulk's plans, and I just adjusted it to obviously to fit this table and so forth. On this part here, on his, he only went right up to here. I went ahead and went the full length, since this was 48 inches, the T-Track was 48 inches, I just say, you know, why bother cutting it and going through all that trouble? Let's just put it the full length, and maybe I'll use it, you know. As of yet, I still to use this, but I do plan on using this section here. And then these sections here, obviously, those are just for the router fence, which I keep right here on the bottom, on the inside, real handy. So I just go ahead and put it right there, align it with the T-tracks, and then I, you know, just go ahead and use it. And really, there's no other perfect place to keep this other than right here. So I've got to, you know, it's not really a dedicated, but I made it a dedicated spot, and I just put it right in there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the inside part of the bench top. And just to imagine for a second that this top part here wasn't here and you could actually see the inside. Now there's a few things that I did here differently than what stated on Ron Paulk's plans, and for obvious reasons, because mine is a lot smaller than his is, right? Now the parts where that they divide here, I went ahead and put a section from here straight down the middle all the way to the end that divides the two sections, right? And then on this section, I only did it on the center part to divide these two boxes here, but only up to this point here. That is it. This whole section here is wide open. Now there's a few reasons why I did that. All right, now one here, I wanted to keep the router here, right, separated from everything else, okay? That's why I did that. And on the inside here, just on this part here, on this part, and on this part, is actually closed in, meaning that I did not do one of these holes here on that section. And the main reason for that is to minimize the dust that went into these areas, especially like on the drawers or whatever. That's why I sealed that section in where the air compressor cabinet is, and spacing it from the actual drawers on this side. I did not want anything there. Now on this section here, I did leave a hole because I already knew that there was, you know, dust and everything was going to get in there, so I wanted a way to clean that. So what I've been doing is just putting my my vacuum hose from my dust ride and just put it in here as I'm using it, and that's helped a lot. On this section here, I left it wide open so I could be able to put things all the way through here, and also on this section there's also wide open so I could just put things a long ways. Now on this side for the jaws, on the inside part, I actually left it closed as well, and for good reason, because watching Jay's video on how he did his Moxon Vise, he had the hole in already, and then he had to rig up some real funky stuff to be able to make the jaws work. And I didn't want to do that. I already knew that I wanted this Moxon Vise here, so I got ready in advance for it, and I just left it closed, and it made it real easy. All I had to do was drill the holes in there, and that's pretty much it. Now for the dimensions between each dog hole is different from what calls on Ron Paulk's plans. His calls for 4-inch on center. So as I was measuring out, I don't know if you could see the lines, but as I was measuring, you know, the 4-inch on center, I mean, I already had these T-tracks in. I just found it to be a little bit, you know, offset and not evenly spaced. And that's one weird thing about me, is I gotta have everything evenly spaced out. So what I did was I changed it at 5 inches on center. So that's what I did. It's 5 inches on center here and all the way around. Now in this section, however, is different. I did the 5 inches on center, or I measured them out, but then I just like, well, man, this is way too whacked out. Again, I like everything evenly spaced out. So what I did was I just followed this line here on center, and it turned out to be a perfect 4-inch on center. So that's what I did. Now going this way is 4 inches on center, but going this way is 5 inches on center, and the reason why I did that was so to follow these lines here. Now let's talk about the Moxon Vise here. There's really not much to say about this. It works as it should. These Moxon Vise, or this whole setup here, the hardware I got from Benchcrafted, and I just followed the plans pretty much, with a few modifications here and there, where lengthwise the jaw I made it the same dimensions as the width of the table here, and then the height-wise, the same thing. And then I used this one panel on the inside, screwed into the bench top. And then this, I just clamped 2 pieces of panels together just to beef it up a bit. And I glued it together, but later on, it actually split. So I'll go into more detail about that later on. But yeah, I use it a lot. I've been doing a lot of dovetail work, and that's really what I use it for. And I also use it to clamp down the paper roll from the paper roll holder. When I extend it, I put it up to here, I clamp it down, and keep everything nice and tight. But other than that, that's pretty much it. It works as it should. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the specs, the dimensions, the features, and the ins and outs of all that good stuff, right? So let's get to what I like, what I don't like, and some of the things that I would do differently and change. Alright, so I'm going to combine all 3 as I talk about specific sections, alright? So, obviously, what I like, or absolutely love, I pretty much love everything about this workbench. I mean, it's so convenient in every aspect. I mean, one of my favorite features of this entire bench is probably this router lift here. I've only used it about 5 or 6 times, but the few times that I did use it has been so convenient. I absolutely love it. If there's one feature that I highly recommend that you would get for your bench, out of all the features in this bench, is this here. Definitely get this. Save your money and invest it in this, because you're going to get a lot more use out of this than probably anything else. The drawers, definitely that, and all that stuff. The second, probably most favorite, is this section here, the vise. I actually use it a lot more than I thought I would. I've been getting into a lot of dovetailing work, and I've been using it a lot for that. However, there are a few things that I just really annoys the hell out of me, and I'll get to that when we get to this section here. The air compressor, forget about it. That it's also a must. I absolutely love that. So pretty much everything I like about this thing. So let's just get to really what I don't like and some of the things that I would do differently. Okay, I'll combine both of those together. So let's start with the drawers. The drawers, the only thing that I would change differently here is this side here behind the air compressor cabinet. There's 4 drawers there, like I showed you earlier, and 3 of the drawers are just really thin, really small, and I actually didn't like that. I thought I would, I thought it'd be cool, but I just found myself not really liking it. You know, there's either the things are too small or the things are just barely a hair too big and just won't fit. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do different there is, instead of having those 4 drawers, I'm probably going to do either 2 or 3. I'll make up my mind when I get to it. But make it deeper, and then just put like trays within the inside of those drawers. I think that'll work out better. I did a project on the inside kitchen on a lot of the drawers there that were deep, and we did that, and I absolutely love that. It's very convenient, so I'm going to do that. Another thing I'm going to do to the drawers is figure out a way to keep them closed. As I'm moving this around, the drawers actually open up, and it seems to happen to the ones that have a lot of weight on it. About half the drawers are empty, but the ones that do got stuff in it, they just seem to pop out. I've caught my leg a few times, or my shin. It's annoying. The next thing is the dog holes. If I were to do this top over, I'm not going to do it over because I like it, it's done. This was the last thing that I did. But if I were to do over, I would definitely do the space them out at 4 inches apart, or not 4 inches apart, 1 foot on center, I should say. And the reason why is because I find myself not using any of the middle ones. I just think it's way too much. After I got it all done, I just think it's way too much. And I find myself only using the outside parts. That's it. So if I had a do-over, you know, I would do these definitely 1 foot on center. And that idea I got from the Samurai carpenter, Jesse, that he did his robo bench 1 foot on center, the dog holes on it. So that seems to work out. And one thing I wanted to show you, these clamps here. These clamps, if you could get these, I got these at Home Depot. They're probably like 15 years old, probably older than that. And they worked out really well for this section here. One thing that I was trying to figure out is how to get these in there, sort of like Ron Paulk has on his. But man, let me tell you, there's no way I'm going to spend that absurd amount of money for these damn clamps. One of those clamps, I could get like 20 of these, right? So anyway, as I'm figuring out, a few of these were actually broken off. You know, they just slid off like nothing. So I said, you know what, that'd be perfect. So that's exactly how I use these. I just slide them in there and slide them in that and clamp my pieces. That's it, right? So I needed a few more because there was only like maybe 3 or 4 of them. I wanted like a total of 8. So what I noticed is that on the edge, it was actually like a burr that was probably hammered in or something to keep this from sliding out. A few of these were, like I said, they were just slid off. So I just went ahead and fouled those other ones out, and boom, there it goes, and I can use these anywhere I want. But that's pretty much it for the dog holes. I would just do less of them. So my recommendation for you is, now that I've experienced this, is just do the outside parts, or just do like a foot on center, and use it that way. And if you have to use, or if you find yourself needing more, then you could just always drill another hole. You know, whereas right now I can't get rid of those holes. So, you know, there you have it. So anyways, the next thing is the T-tracks. I actually love the T-tracks. I really haven't used them at all, but I bought the accessories for them so I could go ahead and you know, and use them. But if anything I would do differently here is just add more. I actually got another 48 inch section T-track, so I'm actually going to do it here. I still don't know whether to just put one here or 2 of them right here, or just one. Again, I'll get to that part when when I get to that section and figure out what to do with them. Now, for the Moxon Vise, that's a whole nother story there. I mean, I think this was the biggest disappointment as far as all the features goes, and I'll tell you why here. But first, let me just say that I don't think it's the Moxon Vise's fault. I think it's more my fault and the way that I built it, more than the actual mod, because it does what it's supposed to do, right? But here's what's the problem that I'm having. It's more of an inconvenience than anything. There's a lot of play, or racking, I think it's what it's called. I mean, a lot. I mean, I cannot get a piece of stock here without having to put something in here. It just will not hold. And then the thicker the stock, you know, the more racking or whatever you call it, the more play it has. So, especially with 3/4 inch stock, I find that I have to put one section here on this side of the rod, then another one on this side, and then one on the bottom here, and then the workpiece here. I find myself working out of this section a lot more, and then right there. And where it becomes a real annoyance is not only that I have to do all that setup, is that I've been doing a lot of dovetailing work, like I said. When I gotta loosen this up to switch the thing over, this piece falls down and I have to put it back in. It's been a real inconvenience. But like I said, it's not the Moxon Vise's fault, is more my fault, I believe, because of the way I built it. I just think it's a little bit too wide. The plans call for a little bit less, so maybe that's why. Another thing is the actual rod, the hole for the rods. If you watch the video, I made drill the hole exactly to fit the rod. So when I put this in there, as I'm clamping down or even trying to get it out, it was just really tight. So looking into the plans again, I noticed that I actually had to make the holes a little bit longer widthwise to help with that racking. And I think I may have did it a little bit too long. I don't know. It was my first time doing it, so you know. But other than that, I still love it because it does what it's supposed to do. I expected that racking. I just didn't expect it to be that much, and I really don't like it. So if I had to do over on this, I would not get these Moxon Vise, expensive Moxon Vises, right? I would actually go the route of that Jay Bates did, where he actually built his Moxon Vise out of cheap clamps from Harbor Freight, I think. I don't got mine from Harbor Freight, but they are cheap, and I got them years ago, and they're the exact same thing, right? So my recommendation for you, if you were to do that, don't invest your money on this just yet. Do it that way because it'll serve the same purpose. I would definitely invest the money on a router lip like that here. But other than that, you know, it's really not a deal breaker. I would rather have this vise here than not have it at all because it's been very, very handy for me. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That's pretty much it for this video. This was the full review of the Paulk Hybrid Workbench. I hope you found it helpful, insightful, and got a few ideas from it. If I left anything out, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer any and all of them. If there's any ideas that you might have, anything that you would do differently, or just any input or insight at all that you may have, also put them in the comments below, because that just helps me out as, you know, as a builder and as a creator, because there's a lot of firsts for me on this one. Like, I've never ever in my entire life did dados like this. I think that's what you call it. I don't even know the name of it, right? But I've never done this little thing like this for this ever. I've definitely never done these little grooves to make something fit like this. Definitely the Moxon Vise. That was a first for me. So the drawers, I've never built drawers like this. I consider these real drawers with sliding, you know, slides and stuff like that. I've never built anything like that. Especially the grooves for the bottom drawers. I just used to just nail them down to the bottom and that's it, like a butt joint, I think is what you call. So that was definitely a lot of firsts for me. A big, huge learning curve. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun and very, very rewarding for me. So I had a ton of fun. Plus, you know, my son got to help out as well with this. So that was really, really rewarding for me. Now, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to be notified on the next video when it's published, because in the next series, we're actually going to be working on this bad boy. This is the J-Baits miter station. I call it the fish tank miter station, as you could probably see why here. And this was a hell of a lot of fun. I mean, this was fun, but man, this was even more fun. So look out for that video series there, because that's going to be a lot of fun there. And also that was a lot of firsts for me there. So make sure to subscribe to be notified on when we publish future videos, and make sure to hit me up on my social media sites, especially on Instagram. I'm always doing stuff on Instagram, very active there, and I do a lot of exclusives on Instagram that you'll never see here on the channel. So make sure to hit me up over there. With that said, peace. I love you free. Out.